Are we being authentic or oversharing? Hey everyone, welcome back to Rooted and Rising. My name is Olayinka. I'll be your host. Today, we're talking about something I think pretty much all of us can relate to one way or the other. And before we get started, let me just say this. This is not an intervention. Nobody's getting called out today. If you've ever posted something and 5 minutes later thought, maybe I said a little too much, welcome. You're among friends. And if you've ever done that, well, congratulations. Please teach the rest of us your ways. Today we're talking about oversharing, but not in a judgmental way. Because I don't think everybody who shares a lot is looking for attention. And I don't think being private automatically makes someone wiser. I actually think it's much more interesting question. Are we being authentic? Or have we gotten so comfortable sharing that we've forgotten that some things can simply belong to us? And honestly, I don't think there's one right answer. We live in a very different world. Think about how much our definition of private has changed. There was a time when something happened in your life and maybe you told your best friend, maybe your sister, maybe your mother, maybe your brother or father, maybe that one auntie who somehow already knew before you told her anyway. Now, you can tell 5,000 people you've never met. And within 10 minutes, somebody you've never seen in your life is commenting, "Girl, I've been through the same thing." And honestly, sometimes that's beautiful because sharing can create connection. Someone talks about grief, motherhood, divorce, infertility, financial struggles, starting over, changing careers, or simply having a terrible Tuesday. And somebody else thinks, wait, I'm not the only one. That's powerful. That's one of the beautiful things about social media and having a platform. Our stories can make people feel less alone. So don't want to sit here and say everybody needs to stop sharing. Absolutely not. Sometimes sharing is how we find community. But why do we share so much? Here's where it gets interesting. Why do we feel the need to tell people everything? Sometimes we're excited, sometimes we're proud, sometimes we're processing something, sometimes we're looking for support, sometimes we're lonely. Sometimes we just found a community where we finally feel understood. And sometimes we're emotional and the post button is sitting there looking entirely too available. You know what I'm talking about. You're upset, you're angry, you're hurt, and suddenly you're typing, "I wasn't going to say anything, but..." And everybody knows, oh, we're about to say something. And not just something, we're about to say everything. We're going to provide the background story, the timeline, the supporting evidence, exhibit A, exhibit B, C, and so on. And then we're going to end it with, but I'm at peace. That's a lie. Ma'am, are you at peace for real? Everything has become content. I think that's one of the biggest changes in our culture. We don't just live our lives anymore, we document them. Dinner becomes a post, vacation becomes a vlog, birthday becomes a photo dump, pregnancy becomes weekly updates, breakup becomes a story time, an argument becomes a TikTok. Somebody can have an argument at 2 p.m. and by 2:17 p.m. we're all sitting on the couch like, okay, let me hear both sides. And I'm not saying that's necessarily bad, but have built businesses from sharing. People have built their businesses from sharing their lives. People have created communities. People have educated others. People have found support. There are people who have completely changed their lives because they finally had a platform to tell their story. So I think the question isn't, should we share? It's, why are we sharing? Not everyone is oversharing for attention. I think this is important. Sometimes we assume that someone who shares a lot simply wants attention. And maybe sometimes they do. But let's be fair. Sometimes people share because they want connection. Sometimes they want encouragement. Sometimes they're celebrating something they've worked incredibly hard for. Sometimes they've been silent for years and finally feel safe enough to speak. Sometimes they're saying, this happened to me. Did this happen to you too? And suddenly thousands of people say yes. That can be incredibly healing. So I don't think we should shame people for sharing because we don't always know what the sharing means to that person. But there's a difference between sharing and surrendering your privacy. This is where I think we can all pause for a second, because you can be authentic, you can still have privacy. You can be honest and still have boundaries around your personal life. You can tell your story without telling every detail. And honestly, I think that's something we sometimes forget because social media constantly tells us, be vulnerable, tell your story, show the real you. And vulnerability can be beautiful. But vulnerability doesn't mean everybody gets access to everything. You can have a beautiful life that nobody online knows about. You can have a difficult season that you don't post. You can have a relationship that isn't on Instagram. You can celebrate something privately. You can heal privately. And guess what? It still counts. The difference between processing and posting. One thing I've been thinking about is how often we share something while we are still inside of it. We're angry, we're hurt, we're confused, we're emotional, and we post. Then the emotion passes and we're looking at our own post like, oh, I really told these people that? Yes, you did. And unfortunately, the internet does not forget. The internet does not have a little button that says, please disregard, I was having a moment. Wouldn't that be convenient? Dear internet, please delete everything I said between 9:14 p.m. and 9:47 p.m. Thank you. No. But sometimes we don't have to share something immediately. We can wait. We can sit with it. We can talk to someone we trust. We can journal. We can pray. We can simply sleep on it. And maybe tomorrow we still want to share it. That's okay. Or maybe tomorrow we think, you know what? That one can stay with me. That's okay too. We all have different relationships with privacy. And this is where I really don't want the conversation to become judgmental. Because what's oversharing to one person is completely normal to another. Some people grew up in families where everybody knows everything. You sneeze in the kitchen and somehow 3 aunties know by dinner. And then there are people who could move across the country and their families find out 6 months later through Facebook. We are different. Some people process publicly. Some people process privately. Some people love documenting their lives. Some people barely take pictures. Some people will tell you their entire life story within 15 minutes of knowing you or meeting you. And some people will say, I'm good. And you're thinking, I know you're not good, but okay. Neither approach automatically makes someone better. So where is the line? Maybe the line isn't about how much you share. Maybe it's about how you feel about what you've shared. Before you post something, maybe ask yourself, am I sharing because I want connection? Am I celebrating? Am I educating? Am I helping someone feel less alone? Am I telling a story that's meaningful to me? Or am I sharing because I'm angry right now? Am I looking for validation? Am I hoping a particular person sees it? Am I trying to prove something? Am I posting because I don't know what else to do with this feeling? And there's nothing shameful about any of those questions. Sometimes we feel we simply need a moment. You don't have to share everything while it's happening. I have also come to appreciate something. You don't have to tell the story while you are still living it. Sometimes you can experience something first, understand it, learn from it, heal from it, and then later decide, now I'm ready to talk about it. And there's something different about sharing from a place of reflection rather than reaction. But again, there's no universal rule. Some people find healing by talking while they are going through something. Others need complete privacy. We're all different. The important thing is knowing yourself. In closing, so maybe this episode isn't really about oversharing. Maybe it's about intentional sharing, because our stories matter, our experiences matter. And sometimes somebody genuinely needs to hear what we've been through. Your story might be exactly what another person needs to hear on the day they are thinking, nobody understands me. So please don't hear this episode as stop sharing. That's not what I'm saying. Share, celebrate, tell your story, be vulnerable, be real. Just remember that authenticity doesn't require full access. You're allowed to have a private life. You're allowed to keep some things between you and the people you trust. You're allowed to have experiences that never become content. And maybe the goal isn't to hide your life. And it isn't to broadcast your life either. Maybe it's simply learning to ask, does this need an audience? Or does this need a moment? Because sometimes the most meaningful parts of our lives are the ones nobody else gets to see. And that's okay. You can share your story without giving away your whole life. And honestly, if you accidentally overshare once in a while, welcome to being human. This is Rooted and Rising. Until next time, take care of yourself, give yourself grace, and remember, you don't have to share everything to be authentic. Sometimes keeping a little something for yourself is part of the story too. Bye-bye.